Hello all my subscribers and new viewers, welcome to another video, game review. Today we are going to be reviewing spiritual successor of Project Reality, Squad. Now keep in mind that this game is still in development and is only still in its alpha phase of that game time. So as a lot of what I criticize or praise could very well change with each new update that comes out for the game. The current build of this title currently is 12.1 for the review. During this review I will touch upon development progress of the game and its community, graphics, performance, sound, gameplay, and as always how it truly feels to play this title. This will be an honest review with no sponsors, bias, manipulation, but only my honest opinion and analysis of the game, while having 370 hours put into the game. So first we're going to touch upon what exactly is Squad. Squad is a spiritual successor to the very popular Battlefield 2 modification, Project Reality. While Project Reality and Squad are very similar in gameplay, they both are very different from one another, with Project Reality focusing on large scale and having more content from maps, factions, and vehicles, and Squad being more focused on the infantry aspect and large yet small scale of war, and having surprisingly immersive graphics and better performance, but less development time and the absence of features that made Project Reality truly a unique experience at the time, such as logistics by air, general total lack of air vehicles in its current build. While it still has vehicles, they are all ground-based. Squad started development in March of 2014 and launched into early access on Steam December 15, 2015, and has remained on Steam's early access as a standout from the rest of the early access titles. It does this so by having a very, for the most part, friendly community and very active development team that consistently keeps the player base informed on the game's status. Squad also stands out because it's one of the very few early access titles to have an actual development and love put into the game. With the game coming a very long way from its early build, if you compare it to builds before 12.0 in its current state, you would think you're looking at a different game, honestly. And it's honestly a beautiful thing to see the dev team work hard and being part of that development from the start. Now let's talk about the graphics of the game. Squad is one of those games with very realistic explosions and lighting. It honestly looks amazing when the IED goes off and you're walking through a forest and the light pierces through the tree branches, creating a very immersive and pleasurable experience for the eyes and the mind. Another thing that looks fantastic would be the weapon models and animations, with weapon models being exact to the real-life counterparts and animations looking fairly realistic with the motion capture technology being used. It looks and feels great. The only bad thing about the graphics would be the horrible anti-aliasing the game has, with super sampling being a slight remedy for this issue. Using this feature is actually going to reduce performance of the game, so it's not recommended unless you have a very beefy build. Most of the time you'll see the anti-aliasing issue on maps that have large amounts of green grass and trees, with trees and grass becoming very rough looking at distance, causing it to become very difficult to see a target at range. Though this has improved since later builds of the game, it's still not that great. Then again, this is a forgivable thing because really they're using a very new engine, being Unreal Engine 4, and it's known right now to have anti-aliasing issues, and it's not really on the development side's part. It's more so Unreal Engine needing to be updated and optimized for game development. Now let's go ahead and talk about the performance of the game. The performance of Squad varies greatly with hardware and what maps are being played. Most matches I get around 40 to 70 frames, with 30 being the lowest, and that would be when a lot of players in action are enclosed in a single area. This does not happen often though, unless I'm playing the invasion game type. Most of the time though, you can expect decent performance unless you're using a very low spec machine. I highly discourage anyone with an FX processor from even attempting to touch this game, as the performance for the CPU series is abysmal and absolutely unplayable at times. The reason for this is because the game renders in real time, while also being very reliant on single core performance, which most of these CPUs in this series are inferior at. I've used personally an FX 6300 and an FX 8300. With both having horrible performance all the way down to single-digit frame rates. This might have improved since then, as I haven't used an FX processor for the past year. I switched over to Intel, and I can actually play the game now and enjoy it for what it is. I'm not downing you if you have an FX CPU, as they can be great processors for gaming, if that game takes advantage of multiple cores, and that's just not the case with this title, unfortunately. though this could change in the future. As for the minimum required specs for the game, they're as follows. It requires a 64-bit processing operating system. You need Windows 7 Service Pack 1, an Intel Core i5-2500K CPU, though you can actually get away if you have a higher end i3 that has hyper-threading. I've known people that play the game with a higher end i3 with no issues. As long as you have hyper-threading on the i3, you're good to go, honestly. As far as memory, the standard 8 GB of RAM, because this is a modern title. And as far as graphics cards, you'll need a GTX 770, an AMD Radeon HD 7870, and you need DirectX version 11. You can get away though using DX10, but the performance will vary on map because the explosions are very reliant on DX11. But I mean, as long as you don't have a build that is a toaster, you should be able to play the game. Now let's get into the sound of this title.
Get frags up this hill. Get frags up there.
Squad's got some absolutely amazing sound, with all guns, explosions, and movement, and even all the way down to rocks sliding, rolling down slopes and hills, coming together to create a pleasurable sympathy of war to the ears. Wishshot is between radio comms and proximity chat, with both sounding real to the experience, with proximity chat echoing and being louder when in buildings, and radio chat while sounding like typical radio chat. The sound really is great in this game. I don't know what kind of sound engine they're using, but it very much sounds like real life, honestly, and I absolutely love it. Now, more importantly, how does this game play? Squad's gameplay is consistent in the name of the game itself, Squad. You play in squads made up of 8 players or less. Each squad has access to various class types from machine gunners, heavy AT, marksmen, and the most basic class, rifleman, who has the ability to deploy sandbags and provide ammunition to team members. The class system is very structured, with all classes having an occupation limit similar to games in the Rising Storm series. This creates balance and more reliance on teamwork, making it a wise feature. Each squad has a leader to take orders from. They're the most important and should be kept alive at all times. Usually a match experience is dependent on having a squad leader who knows what they're doing, so this can create an issue, and the game can be boring at times when you have someone who knows no idea what they're doing or how to correctly play squad lead. Thankfully, you can learn how to play squad lead yourself, so when this does happen, you can just take command yourself and change the tide of the game. People are typically very enthusiastic as long as you are assertive in your commands and do what you're supposed to be doing. Squad has a heavy reliance on logistics, with squad leaders building forward operating bases that need to be supplied with ammunition and building materials. While FOBs are awesome, you can get in games that drag out and become a loss because the entire team decides they want to build Atlantis and protect it. Though these games can be a fun little last stand, it's not how the game should be played. Vehicles work as you might think if you played PR, with most vehicles requiring the crewman class to operate effectively. That basically sums up the gameplay. Of course, there are different game modes in the game, but they're not really worth going in for me. Last and arguably the most important, how does Squad feel to play? Squad is an intense and heart-racing experience at times, and other times it feels like bowling with grandma, very boring. Though most of the time it can feel great. There's so many moving parts in a match, from logistics, teamwork, and communication. It's very satisfying to win and even lose at times. In all honesty, Squad is really at its best when you have a good squad leader and a familiarity with teamwork-oriented shooters, so it's hard to say whether or not you will enjoy this experience. But for 90% of my matchers, this game is a pleasure to play. Final verdict, should you buy this game? Yes, if you like hardcore shooters and don't mind that it's an early access, then you should get it. And as far as early access, I give it a 9 out of 10 as far as early access. This game belongs in early access. The dev team is very passionate about what they're building as far as a product. And I give that score out of 9 out of 10 for these reasons: satisfying gameplay, great community, and supportive development team. Something very rare in early access titles. That pretty much concludes this review. If you guys like the review, let me know. Comment down in the comments what I could have done better, and if you feel like I really missed out on something that should have been done as far as the review, please tell me, because I'm open to constructive criticism and I'm always looking to improve my content. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like the video, and share it with your friends if you found it enjoyable. Thank you.